Hello, I'm James McKinney, the creator and host of The Startup Story and founder of the hottest new entrepreneurial coffee subscription, Grindology. 2020 was an absolute hot mess for so many of us, including The Startup Story. In fact, we lost 100% of our revenue as sponsors and advertisers pulled their cash close to the vest in response to the fear and uncertainty brought on by the global pandemic. We had incredible plans going into 2020, and all of it began to unravel last March. And I fully realize that the startup story is not alone in that narrative. But let's also be honest and recognize the fact that not every startup had that same story. In fact, some businesses had a banner year last year. I mean, imagine jumping into 2020 with a revenue forecast of just $600,000, and with all the chaos and disruption that 2020 brought, actually ended up exceeding that goal by 400%. Now, if you're like me, I'm sure you're probably thinking, well, wouldn't that be a great problem to solve? And yes, it would be. But let's also not fool ourselves into thinking that that growth doesn't bring its own set of challenges, because it does. In this video, we unpack the lessons learned from a founder that did experience an unexpected 400% growth last year, and those lessons that he learned from him. Lessons that almost broke him. So let's get into it. Every week, I sit with a successful founder to unpack their entrepreneurial journey that led them to build the incredible businesses and brands that they have. And with over 100 episodes and almost 100,000 listeners across the UK, Australia, and the United States, we have been fortunate to have some of the most amazing founders join the show. And just recently, I had the chance to speak with Quinton and Taryn Lewis, co-founders of Urban Eden. Urban Eden is an all-natural, plant-based bath and beauty company based out of Atlanta. Quinton and Taryn are a husband and wife team that began building Urban Eden 5 years ago out of their parents' garage. So far, not that uncommon of a story, right? Well, if you give their full podcast episode a listen, then you'll hear how their desire for commune living and farming in the middle of metropolitan Atlanta is what led them to creating Urban Eden. How many startups begin trying to solve for being part of a commune? You're going to have to queue up the episode by hitting the link below and listening to it on your favorite podcast platform. Well, in 2019, they opened up their first retail location and ended the year forecasting close to $600,000 in revenue for 2020. Well, 2020 hits us all like a freight train, and while many businesses were unraveling, theirs was booming. In fact, the full podcast episode, we discuss all the variables that contributed to their unexpected 400% growth. But in this video, Quinton shares with us his key learnings from this season. In fact, that type of unforeseen growth nearly broke him personally as he wrestled with how to navigate the numerous challenges that came from that growth and the logistical challenges that came from the global shutdown. But before we jump into this segment, I highly suggest that you watch the very end of this video, as I have a special offer to have your business highlighted in an upcoming episode of The Startup Story. Now let's hear direct from Quinton Lewis, co-founder of Urban Eden, on his key learnings for all of us on how we should be prepared for unexpected growth in our businesses.
So what I'm going to say, to prepare for moments like that, get your stuff set up now. Go all in and invest before. Because the thing is, one of the things that we struggle with was just, it's almost like we were playing catch up the whole time. We implemented our customer service person in the midst of it. So it's like, get your customer service person implemented before, so that when things do, because customer service is everything. Amazon knows this, all of the big dogs know this. You gotta have that customer service, implemented before. Also, invest into the softwares before. We end up after a lot of the storm hit, we started invested into a better CRM system. The one that we invested into was called Rich Panel or whatnot. So it's similar to Amazon's, where people can come on your site, they can track their own orders, because that's most of the emails. Most of the emails are, hey, where's my order? And things like that. So we implemented a system where it would actually kind of automate a lot of that. So I would say invest into your systems, invest into people, put the people in place, hire from top up. I mean top down. The thing is that once we were going through the midst of this, we were just trying to find people. Hey, just come in. We just need help just filling in the orders or whatnot. But it's hey, do your best. And it's going to take some money and it will take some sacrifice, but do your best to try to do things before, lay that foundation before, because it's going to be so valuable for you. Because again, for us, I'm pretty sure we lost some customers, but we gained a whole lot. We gained way, way more. But we could have performed way better, if we were prepared, a little bit more prepared, and had systems in place before. So in addition to everything I said, let's go into like logistics. Some of the things that I learned just through operations were, you know, ordering, the material, making sure you have, honestly, like the standard now is it has to be like 6 months. You have to order for like 6 months now. Like that's just the norm now. Like
Is that because of your volume, or is that because of COVID?
that's because of COVID, I would say. That it has to be because of COVID. And also too, like all of us, especially in the startup story, just listen to it. We're startups. So we are growing. So prepare for that growth. So get 6 months plus of material, order way more than you have to, because you rather have that on hand, because again, who knows? Like it used to be things that would only take like a few days to get to us, but it would take way longer. And then that would consequently back up orders, because you're just missing like one little thing, and that would back up lots of orders. So another thing also is to try to do as much as you can in-house, if you can, because outsourcing, as we all saw, like that made us a lot vulnerable. So I'm not here to say that, you can't get things overseas and things like that. But if you can, try to find as many local vendors, try to find as many vendors that are in the States, because think about how much leverage that gives you. I think the fact that we were able to like put our fulfillment at 4 to 6 weeks, we were only able to do that because we produce everything in-house. So try to be as in-house as much as you can, because that's going to benefit you, and that's going to allow you to probably take more risk. Because again, if you're outsourcing your product, overseas or whatnot, historically it might have only taken you 4 weeks to get your product, but with COVID and all these special things, it might take 6 months. It might take 4 to 6 months to get, when historically it might have only took a month. So just try to beef up your internal. Really, really cultivate that, and really just make sure that you are this well-powered machine that's just ready for this growth. Because I think 2021, it's going to be another storm. I think that's ahead of us, that's coming. And I think that we all need to be prepared for it.
I hope you found this content helpful. And if you did, then please make sure to subscribe to the Startup Story podcast on your podcast platform of choice. That way you can hear Quinton and Taryn's episode in its entirety. With over 100 founder interviews to choose from, I am confident you will find many that will be helpful to your entrepreneurial journey. Now, I mentioned earlier that I have a special offer for you to promote your business and brand within the Startup Story podcast. And this offer requires nothing from you except your time. In every episode of the Startup Story, I read a listener review from Apple Podcasts. And if you visit the Startup Story show page within Apple Podcasts and leave a written review, I will read it in an upcoming episode. And here's the best part. If you insert your URL, social media account, or brand within that review, it becomes like a free ad within the Startup Story podcast. I hope you'll subscribe to the show, as well as follow us on all the many social media platforms. I say it in every episode because I believe it. Entrepreneurs support other entrepreneurs, and we're here to support you.